Hi everyone, welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst. So today's video we're going to continue the series of the PSO side stories in episode 1. So last episode we covered quests like Fake and Yellow and the Value of Money and Journalistic Pursuit. So we're just going to pick up from the next ones along and hopefully uncover a little bit more about the side story of PSO. Okay, so the next one we're doing today is one called Native Research. So it's from someone called Alicia, and it says, to help our study, collect data on native animals on Ragol. So, are you a taker? I'm Alicia Baz. I'm an assistant at a laboratory. Ah, sorry, I can't tell you which lab I'm working at. We really need biological data on Ragol's native animals. Ah, sorry, I can't tell you why we need this data. I'm sensing a theme here. I'm just asking you to get this data for us. I heard that animals on Ragol are violent, so you need to kill them. Let me put this tool on you to take data from your weapons and bodies. The biological data is automatically stored in these capsules. Please collect data from 5 different native animals. The storage system only works for 20 minutes. Come back by that time. The shield doesn't detect animals if they're too small. Please, don't talk to anyone about this request. So straight away we get a time limit starts. Personally, I don't agree with this plan. Even though it's for research, we shouldn't kill animals for data. I don't understand what my boss is thinking. I should go with you to get the data capsules myself, but... sorry, I'm too weak. So Alicia's quite conflicted about this, clearly. What can I do for you? Please hurry back. I work at the lab too. I hope you can be of assistance to us. Did you accept that quest? I didn't do it because the client is untrustworthy. I can't work for someone who's so secretive. You agree, right? So clearly Alicia is very conflicted about this job that suggested she do, because she knows it involves killing the animals and she doesn't really want to kill them. As if we get a photon drop immediately. I'll take that. So, as she said, we need to collect samples from 5 different animals, but they can't be animals that are too small. What that means, if you've never done this quest before, is you can't get samples from the moths, but you can get samples from the nests. So in here we've got some boomers, so they should do for samples, and all we need to do is just kill them. So upon clearing that room, it says analyzing biodata, analyzing battle data, setting data code, got biological data 1. So that's one of our items. So if we go into our quest board here, you can see we've got a biological data 1 here. It says native animal data, a type of land-dwelling animal. So it's clearly a very secretive quest in that Alicia won't tell you what lab she's working in. She won't tell you why they need the data. It looks like a lot of other hunters have refused to take this job on because they don't trust the client. Clearly we don't have any moral obligations or anything because we just took it anyway. So you do want to wait a bit in this room because it does spawn a couple of these monests. And just like the previous room, you don't get the biological data until you've actually cleared the room. Obviously time is somewhat of the essence in this quest because you are on a 20-minute timer. However, it is pretty easy to get all the samples though. think this might be the last one. This room does waste a lot of time, unfortunately. So hopefully that'll be enough. Yep, there we go. So same thing again. Now that was biological data 3. Don't worry about the order you collect them in. As long as you've got all 5, it doesn't matter which order you get them in. So far we've got the data for boomers and we've got the data for monists. So if you know your enemies in forest, you'll know what the other 3 enemies that we need are. Now, we could go to forest 2 there, but I think we can get some more battle data in forest 1. So unfortunately just boomers in here, so these won't count, because we've already got the data for these. And if you're wondering, no, gold boomers don't count as a separate species. It's essentially like the families of enemies that you need to look for, so boomers, gold boomers and giga boomers all count for the same sample. Great camera view there, by the way, PSO. Thanks for that. So we'll go in here, see if we get any different enemies. Okay, so we've got rappies in here, so these should count. There we go, got biological data 4. So the other 2 remaining ones are for the wolves and for Hildebears. So obviously Hildebears we need to go to Forest 2 for, because they don't spawn in Forest 1 typically. But the wolves, we should be able to get those in Forest 1. Now, can we go this way, or do we need to go around? We need to go around. So from a lore perspective, not a whole lot to go on really in this quest at the minute. We just know that the lab for some reason, or a lab, it may not be the actual Pioneer 2 lab that we're used to from episode 2. It could be a different lab. We just know that for some reason they're wanting to collect biological samples of the animals on Ragol. It could just be because they want to try and figure out why the animals have turned violent. Yep, so we've got wolves in here, so these will count for our 4th sample. So we've got biological data 2 from that. So we've got all the samples that we can get from Forest 1 now. So now what we need to do is we need to head to Forest 2 and get the last sample from a Hildebear. So you do need to be relatively quick in this quest because honestly 20 minutes is not a huge amount of time. You can see we are getting a lot of repeat enemies as well, so we essentially just need to keep fighting through it until we find a spawn that has Hildebears. Okay, so we've got a couple of switches in here. So I think that did trigger a Hilda Bear spawn, actually. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we've got all the biological data. So our timer ends there now, so we've got all the samples. So if we look at these quest samples, do they actually say anything different? So number 1 says native animal data, a type of land-dwelling animal. Number 2, a carnivore similar to the wolves on Coral. So this is really interesting because it actually references the previous planet, which is really cool. So Coral, if you don't know, is the planet that Pioneer 2 came from to find Drago. And it's also the planet that Phantasy Star Zero takes place on. Biological 3 is a parasitic plant, possibly mutated. I'm going to assume that's for the monest. Interesting that it says probably mutated, because that would imply that it's maybe an altered beast. When it's not, it's a native animal in PSO. Number 4, almost identical to Coral's Rapi species. So, clear that Raggle has a very similar ecosystem to Coral in terms of the animals here. And number 5, resembles some type of enormous mammal. So not particularly descriptive, but it's a little bit more information. So if you're doing quests where you do get quest board items, it is worth checking them because occasionally you do get these little extra bits of information. So again, we don't really know what the purpose of that quest was in terms of why they want the samples. Okay, so let's report back in with Alicia. I confirmed all 5 sets of biological data. Your job is complete. I'm sure that this data will help us to proceed with that research. Oh, no, sorry, nothing, sorry. Now please visit the Hunters Guild to receive your Mazetta. Sorry that our request was so secretive, it wasn't my intention. So with that, we've finished native research. So interestingly, with native research, this introduces a new concept in the side stories where certain side stories can actually branch into secondary ones. So occasionally you will complete some side stories and it will unlock another one as a result. And with native research, that is the case. So if we go back into side stories, you can see we now have a new quest here. So before we did this, Gran Squall was the next quest. But we've now got this quest called Forest of Sorrow instead, which has just appeared after we completed native research. And when we go on this, again, it's from Alicia. So it says, I don't believe the results taken from the data capsules. I want to go see for myself. So it actually links directly to the native research quest. So we'll take this one. Hi Taker, it's me, Alicia Baz. Do you remember me? I asked you to get data from the Raggle animals. Yes, the assistant at a laboratory. At that time, I was told by my boss not to disclose any details. This time, I'm asking you to do a job for an individual. Frankly speaking, I want you to go to Raggle with me. I've studied large mammals my whole life. I was happy to know that similar animals lived on Raggle too. But the data you brought back to us was really strange. If it's really true, then something must have happened to the animals. I want to confirm it. I want to see Raggle's mammals and their living environments. And I want to take the data myself personally. That's my request. I know it's dangerous down there. I will kill them if necessary. I don't like fighting, but I might have to. If possible, I don't want to use my talent as a force. But I have to go. Please go with me. The funny thing about this quest is that anyone who's done this quest knows that her talent as a force is essentially not much. Like most NPCs in PSO, to be fair. So basically she wants to come along with you and essentially do data gathering again, but she wants to take the data this time instead of you. Because she doesn't believe the results that you brought back to her the first time because they're so strange. She hasn't said why it's strange exactly, but she wants to come to Ragol, take the readings for herself so she can see if it correlates. So the data you reported was taken around the dome, wasn't it? Please take me to that place. So that is the game's way of basically saying go to Forest 2. Just a little side note about this quest as well. If you are hunting anything from the rare Hildebears, this is a really good quest for doing it. There are better ones, but this isn't too bad. So there should be a transporter that will bring us to the dome. Will it still work after that big explosion? I wonder. Well, we'll worry about that when we find it. So we've got no time limit to worry about. We just need to escort Alicia basically through the forest so that she can see the animals for herself. Yeah, basically all Alicia does is just spam barter. I think she might use rest occasionally. Can we use that transporter to get to the dome? Let's go. So we've got a Forest 2. And this is where we can start to help Alicia get her data. So it's interesting as well that this time she wants to do the job as an individual rather than as a member of her lab. I guess she finds the data so strange that she just doesn't believe that this could be what Ragol is actually like. So as you run through this quest, you will actually see a little NPC marker, and when you go in here, there's actually a baby Hildebear. Do you see that? It must be some mammal's young. It looks very young. Can we get closer? It's gone. So yeah, the baby Hildebear just runs for it as soon as you go near. But interestingly, unlike everything else in the forest, the baby Hildebear didn't try attacking us. I do find it a bit weird in this that baby Hildebear is apparently the only baby animal in the entire PSO. Go Boomer's right arm. Well, we're continuing the trend with these videos. We've got a Boomer's right arm in the first two. I guess we've gone up to a Go Boomer's arm now. Yeah, so particularly if you're playing back on the Gamekeeper Xbox, this was quite a good quest for hunting the rare Hildebears. On the private servers now, typically you probably run something like Tyrell's Ego instead. But this is still a pretty easy way of trying to find the rare ones. So it's a fairly standard quest overall list. You're basically just taking Alicia through Forest 2. Just so you can confirm all these readings that you took in the previous quest. She hasn't explained at the moment though why the readings were strange. Just that there was something off about them. I think if you played PSO's main story, you probably know what the strangest in the readings is. So, just a minute. Same results as before. It means that the data was accurate. This really is data from the native animals on Ragol. Unbelievable. How is it strange? Well, it's hard to explain as it is a genetic issue. I think the gene pool has been altered. It's just too unusual. I've studied animals for a long time, and I'd never believe this. So she's clearly quite concerned or worried about what she's seeing. And she now thinks that the native animals might have had their gene pool altered, which, again, if you play the main story PSO, you kind of know that Falz's influence kind of spreads across the entire Ragol in different ways. You know, we know that things like Durolay mutated pretty much everything in caves. And we know that a lot of the animals in the forest did turn violent. Yeah, Alicia is understandably quite concerned about what she's seeing. So as you can see, there is quite a few Hildebears in this. So we get through the little gauntlet of Hildebears at the end. And we come in here, and the baby one's here again. So we'll try approaching the baby Hildebear again. Ow. Ah, it's a baby. Not aggressive at all. It looks so weak. It doesn't look like its parents are feeding it. And it's hurt. Why? What hurt you? Oh, poor baby. The current environment on this planet may be too harsh for it now. Taker, what do you think about taking it back with us? You actually get a choice here. Now, I don't actually know if it makes much of a difference what you choose here. So I'm going to say you shouldn't do it because I think bringing a native animal back from Ragol when everything here is aggressive, even though this isn't, I think bringing a native animal back to Pioneer presents all kinds of issues. You know, like infection risks to the crew of Pioneer. You never know what you could be bringing back with you, so I'm going to say you shouldn't do it. Yes, you're right. We cannot bring him to our world. The baby should stay here. I'm sure that something is changing the animals for the worse on Ragol. But I must not change Ragol's nature with my one-sided sympathy. That's what I hated at the lab. Okay, I've made up my mind. Take her. Back to Pioneer 2 now. I'll investigate the cause of their unnatural behaviour. It's the only thing I can do now. Let's go back to Pioneer 2. Talk to the Hildebear again and it goes, never to be seen again. So go back to Pioneer 2. I really appreciate you helping me out. Don't forget to visit the counter at the Hunters Guild. And Alicia disappears. Why do we have to hire hunters to help us with our study? Nonsense. I hate it. Oh, I get it. Alicia left the lab because she hated it too. So clearly Alicia didn't really like the conditions in the lab or the ethics of what they were doing there, so she decided to leave. She never actually said that she'd left the lab, but she hinted at it, you know, she was talking about the lab in past tense and things like that, so you could kind of put 2 and 2 together to figure out that she'd left the lab. So I think this guy's just talking about this NPC here. He's obviously just talking around, muttering under his breath. So with that, we finish Forest of Sorrow. And that's the end for now of the Alicia questline. There is a little bit more to Alicia, which I don't want to spoil at the minute for anyone who's never done the side story. There is a little bit more to her. She's connected to another character, but I won't spoil any more than that. So to finish this off, we'll do one more quest. And the next one is this one, Gran Squall. Now this is actually a very important quest. So it's from a travel agency, and it says, the pleasure boat Gran Squall is lost, find the survivors. Are you Taker? I work for the travel agency. The Gran Squall is a pleasure boat. It departed for Ragol before we received news about the explosion. Our communication with the ship has been lost. To ease concerns, we decided to implement a huge search on Ragol. Some hunters are already down there looking for survivors. Any kind of clues would be fine. I expect you to find something. If you find anything, report it to me right away. And don't talk to the other hunters, we don't want rumours to spread. So, if you know anything about Ragol, there should already be a few warning signs here. First of all, so you're saying it's a pleasure boat that's gone down to Ragol. Why, when we've just arrived, especially after an explosion? Apparently it was down there before the explosion, but why would a pleasure boat be on Ragol? You know, we haven't even finished setting up the residential areas yet from Pioneer 1. Next to nothing is happening on Ragol now. Why would a pleasure boat be down there? So that immediately makes no sense. Second of all, he's saying don't talk to the other hunters because I don't want rumours to spread. So that kind of implies that he's hiding something. So it's already very, very strange. If you want to keep your job, you better keep your mouth closed. Nobody will give you a job if you disobey orders. So again, there's this sort of trust thing where they don't want you talking to anyone. Now, why would that be such a big deal if it's a pleasure boat? Surely you just want me to go and find the survivors? A pleasure boat before the explosion? I doubt any civilian boat would go before the council opened the line. Exactly. So this is why this makes no sense. Why would a pleasure boat be down in Ragol? I happened to see Great Sword Zucker a few days ago. He was cool. But his android wasn't with him. I heard that she's always with him. Zucker's around the transport with a ranger. So, no sign of him here at the moment. So, we'll go down to Forest 1. Yeah, so very strange quest so far. So, we're looking for this pleasure boat, apparently. But there's a lot of things that don't add up. You know, why would a pleasure boat be on Ragol already? It makes no sense. Although having said that, in claiming a stake, we did have a landlord going down to Ratgall, so you never know. So all we can do for now is just try and push through forest and see if we find anything. So it seems fairly standard so far. You know, the enemy's obviously still aggressive down here. No signs of any of the pleasure boat survivors or anything yet. Looks like there is an NPC over here though. So we found Bernie. Are you looking for the pleasure boat too? Do you really believe the story about the pleasure boat? No, I don't. At all. I agree with you. I think you're correct. Now, the interesting thing about this is, that's all he says to you if you say no. If you say yes, he goes, hey, are you serious? You're interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive my rudeness. Can I come with you? I'll give you some good information. Come on. So it's kind of funny because if you don't believe the story about the pleasure boat, he just kind of lets you get on with it and go investigate it for yourself. But you want to say yes, so you get Bernie to come along with you so you can get some extra information. It feels a little bit counterintuitive because it's clear there's more to this than a simple pleasure boat. So we've got another NPC here. Are you working on the quest offered by the travel agency? I'm doing that too, but I can't find any traces at all. Let me know if you find anything. So interestingly, the guy from the quote-unquote travel agency said that we'd find something for definite, whereas that Humar is really struggling to find anything. Don't you think that this quest is strange? A pleasure boat departed before the council made first contact? No way. I really doubt that the ship fell to the ground. So it is like they said, there is a lot of NPCs down here to talk to. You searching for the Gran Squall? Will you share your info with me? So you can say yes or no. And honestly, I don't believe the travel agency, so I'm going to say yes. You know nothing, am I right? You have no information to share. Me? Oh, well. I'll collect all the info from now on. What does he say if you say no? You want to monopolize the money, right? Same as that man in black. So clearly there's some man in black down here. Hopefully not a reference to PSP2. So if you played PSO before, you know what time it is. Won't open? Is the mechanism broken? Let me take care of it. See? I have the knack. He said the thing. So we're still no further forward to find out what's actually going on with the Gran Squall yet. But it's clear that Bernie obviously doesn't believe the story about it being a pleasure boat either. The information? Oh, yes. Can you keep a secret? Do you swear? The true meaning of this quest is not what it appears to be. The The Gran Squall crashed on Ragol, that's true. But it's not a pleasure boat. The Gran Squall is a secret military ship. I don't know what its purpose was. Anyway, it crashed on Ragol. I confirmed it with my source, who's working on another quest with me. My source says there must be a survivor. My true quest is camouflaged by the travel agency's quest. So Bernie's clearly got his own motives for being here. He's obviously looking for someone in particular. We now know that the Gran Squall, as we expected, is not a military ship. Sorry, is not a pleasure boat, it is a military ship. We don't know why it was here or why it crashed though. So we can probably skip these enemies, honestly, and just go to Forest 2. So one thing you will notice about this quest as well is that it is quite a bit longer than previous quests that you've done. I think to me this feels like one of the more story important quests. It does also fill you in about like how much behind the scenes stuff is happening on Pioneer 2 as well. You know, why are they lying and saying that a pleasure boat crashed on Ragol when we now know it's a military ship? You know, why was a military ship on Ragol? Especially as a hunter, because we were under the impression that we were the ones kind of scoping out Ragol to find out what happened to Pioneer 1. So why the military already going ahead? If you've watched the main story playthrough that I've done, you'll know that the military in PSO basically can't be trusted whatsoever. We'll just open this door just in case we need to come back that way. So if you're very keen-eyed, you might notice where you've got to go here. Because if you look at your map at the top right when you're in this room, you'll actually see there's an NPC. They're actually up on this ridge up there. So basically where the dragon boss portal is normally. That is basically where you need to go in this quest. But we'll keep exploring just to see if there is any other signs of the Gran Squall. So obviously, if you have played through the main story, you'll know a little bit about this NPC anyway, because Bernie does show, particularly in episode 4. You know, Bernie, Ash, Kirik, and Sue kind of all show up quite extensively in episode 4's story. And there is a specific reason I've deliberately mentioned episode 4 there. I'm looking for a little lady. I heard that a chip's implanted in her body to get her data. If we're close enough to her, we can detect her with this machine. I don't understand why they had to implant the chip into her. So again, if you have watched the episode 4 lore playthrough in particular, or if you've played Blueburst yourself, you might know at this point who we're looking for. So can we access the dome from this way? Yes, we can. It shows that a signal is coming from this direction. But there seems to be a big party waiting for us. I'm glad that I joined up with you. So again, even though we're quite far through now, we still don't really know what the purpose of the Grand Squall was. But it's now clear that they were carrying this little lady, as Bernie puts it, and that this girl has a chip implanted into her. So it's clearly someone who is very important to the military, to be transported specifically on a military ship. Okay, so as we get through here, we're getting close to a signal now. As we get close, we can see who it actually is. So when we get here, we can see that the girl we've been looking for is actually Rupika. She's badly injured. It's a miracle that she's still alive. Hey, you. Thanks for the help. Can you go on ahead and report it to the travel agency? I'll go with her later. Don't worry. I'll contact my other client about this girl before we return. His other client, he doesn't go into who it is necessarily, but it's assumed that obviously someone on Pioneer had mentioned that that a ranger had been hanging out with Great Sword Zork. So I'd assume that maybe Zork is his companion that he's been working with. So you can't speak to Rupika or anything here. She's completely out cold. Trust me, you fought alongside me. I never betray my party. But I'm forgetful. So why would I trust you then? So yeah, for this quest you end up just leaving Rupika in the care of Bernie. Which honestly seems like a bit of a weird decision, because you've literally just met Bernie, really. You don't really know if you can trust him, but you just decide to leave Rupika with him. But sure. I heard that Survivor was found on Rargol. They said it was a little girl. Is it true? It is. Yes, you're still talking about the Great Sword Zork. So I don't think we're going to get much more from this. I will talk to this soldier again, the one that threatened to make me lose my job, because why not? You shouldn't talk about your job even when it's complete. Got that? Never forget that. Excellent. We didn't expect there to be any survivors. Let me confirm this. Only Bernie and you know about the survivor. Oh, Bernie is the ranger who brought her here for you. It's his nickname. He's always been a mysterious man. Wait, so Bernie's his nickname? I didn't actually know that. I'll take care of the girl. Don't worry. The guild will pay your reward. And that is all there is to Gran Squall, so you actually learn nothing about the girl. This must have been a really strange quest back on the original games, because nothing really comes of it. It's only until episode 4 with Blue Burst later on that you actually find out who that girl is. So they never tell you her name in this or anything. It just kind of introduces you to the character, and then I think that's all you see of her in episode 1. I could be wrong, but I think that might be the only quest she shows up in, apart from maybe like some event quests online. So you don't really learn a whole lot. You don't really know what the Gran Squall was doing, but there was clearly some secret military operation going on the surface of Ragol that required transporting this girl who had this chip implanted into her. We don't know really why that was the case or what they were doing, but if you played the episode 4 main story, you know that obviously particularly Works and Leo Greatheart are very, very interested in Rupika because of what she is, which again, if you play the main story, you'll know that she is what's called a Neo-Newman who can control photons very, very well. So it's clear that the military are keeping a very close eye on her, and that's kind of the main purpose of this, really. So yeah, with that one, we'll end this episode there. I know it's been a much longer one today, but the Gran Squall is quite a long quest. So we'll end that one there. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will try and answer what I can. You can also follow me over on either Twitter or Twitch, Section Skyline on both. Or we do have a Discord you can join, which I'll leave a link to in the description as well. Yeah, hope you're enjoying the side story playthrough so far, and I'll see you guys in the next one.